Water drives nearly every physiological process inside a tree. It moves nutrients, supports cell structure, cools foliage, and fuels photosynthesis. Yet for arborists working in urban landscapes, water is rarely balanced. Sometimes there is too little, sometimes there is too much, and sometimes the soil conditions prevent roots from accessing water even when it is technically present. For the BCMA exam, understanding tree-water relations is essential because irrigation decisions, soil conditions, and site hydrology all influence tree health. When arborists understand how water moves through soils and trees, they can diagnose stress, manage irrigation systems, and prevent long-term decline. Today, we are going to explore how trees interact with water, how soils store and move moisture, and how arborists manage irrigation in real landscapes. In this podcast, we will discuss how trees absorb, retain, and lose water. We will explore soil water concepts such as available water, water holding capacity, and permanent wilting point. We will also examine how water moves through landscapes by looking at hydrology, infiltration, percolation, and stormwater runoff. Finally, we will discuss irrigation strategies such as drip irrigation, hydrozoning, and xeriscape design, along with tools the arborists use to measure soil moisture and salinity. Understanding these concepts helps arborists diagnose drought stress, evaluate drainage problems, and design irrigation systems that support long-term tree health. Let's begin with how water actually supports tree physiology. When plant cells contain enough water, they become turgid. This means the cells are full and firm. The pressure created by water inside those cells is called turgor. Turgor pressure helps maintain leaf rigidity, supports new growth, and keeps stomata functioning normally. When water becomes limited, turgor decreases. Leaves may wilt, and the tree begins experiencing water stress. Eventually, if soil moisture drops too low, the tree reaches the permanent wilting point. At this stage, the roots can no longer extract water from the soil, and the plant cannot recover without new moisture. This leads us to an important soil concept called available water. Available water refers to the portion of soil moisture that plant roots can actually absorb. Soil might contain water, but not all of it is accessible to plants. The upper limit of soil moisture is known as the saturation point. At saturation, all soil pores are filled with water. However, saturated soil creates a different problem. Roots require oxygen. When soil remains saturated too long, oxygen levels drop and conditions become anaerobics. Anaerobic soil conditions limit root respiration and can lead to root decline or death. Arborists often encounter this problem in poorly drained sites or compacted soils. Once excess water drains from saturated soil, the remaining moisture held in the soil is influenced by the soil's water-holding capacity. Soils rich in organic matter and fine particles tend to hold more water. Eventually, as roots absorb moisture and evaporation continues, soil moisture may drop toward the permanent wilting point. This range between field capacity and permanent wilting point represents the plant's available water supply. Now let's talk about how water actually moves through soil. The process begins with infiltration. Infiltration is the movement of water from the soil surface into the soil profile. The speed of this movement is called the infiltration rate. Sandy soils often have high infiltration rates, while compacted or clay soils may absorb water very slowly. If water cannot infiltrate quickly enough, it becomes stormwater runoff. Stormwater runoff flows across the soil surface instead of soaking into the ground. In urban environments, runoff is often increased by impervious surfaces like pavement and buildings. These impervious surfaces prevent water from entering the soil, dramatically changing site hydrology. Hydrology refers to the movement and distribution of water across landscapes. In urban areas, altered hydrology often leads to both flooding and drought conditions for trees. Once water enters the soil, it continues moving downward through a process called percolation. Percolation allows water to travel through the soil profile until it eventually reaches groundwater or the water table. The water table is the level below which the soil remains saturated with groundwater. Some plants can access groundwater, but most landscape trees rely primarily on water stored in the upper soil layers. However, soil layers sometimes block this downward movement. A compacted layer known as hardpan can prevent water from percolating deeper into the soil. Hardpan can also restrict root growth, trapping roots in shallow soil layers. Now here is something interesting arborists often encounter. Some soils repel water. These soils are called hydrophobic soils. Organic compounds can coat soil particles and prevent water from penetrating the surface. The opposite condition is hydrophilic soil, which readily absorbs water. Another term you may encounter is hygroscopic water. Hygroscopic water refers to water that is tightly bound to soil particles. Plants cannot access this water, which is why it is not considered available water. Field-based arborist examples. Imagine you're inspecting a newly planted tree in a parking lot landscape island. The surrounding pavement is impervious, so rainwater quickly becomes stormwater runoff rather than soaking into the soil. The small planting space receives very little infiltration, and the tree begins showing symptoms of drought stress. Even though rainfall occurs, the site hydrology prevents water from reaching the root zone. This is where irrigation becomes critical. Drip irrigation is often used in urban landscapes because it slowly delivers water directly to the soil. This improves infiltration and reduces runoff. A properly designed drip irrigation system also minimizes evaporation losses. Another irrigation concept arborists should understand is evapotranspiration, often abbreviated as ET. Evapotranspiration combines two processes, evaporation from the soil and transpiration from plant leaves. ET rates are influenced by temperature, wind, humidity, and sunlight. Many irrigation schedules are based on ET data to ensure trees receive enough water without over-irrigation. Water management becomes especially important during drought. Drought occurs when precipitation levels remain below normal for an extended period. Trees may experience desiccation during severe drought conditions. Desiccation is the drying of plant tissues when water loss exceeds water uptake. Some plant species have evolved strategies to survive drought. For example, certain trees enter dry season dormancy. During this period, growth slows and water use decreases. Arborists working in arid climates often design landscapes using Xeriscape principles. Xeriscape focuses on selecting drought-tolerant plants and minimizing irrigation needs. One key strategy in Xeriscape design is hydrozoning. Hydrozoning groups plants with similar water requirements together. This allows irrigation systems to deliver appropriate amounts of water to each zone. Indicator plants are often used in irrigation management as well. An indicator plant is a species that visibly shows stress quickly when water becomes limited. When those plants begin to wilt, it signals that irrigation may be needed. Diagnostic thinking for arborists. So how do arborists evaluate soil moisture conditions in the field? One important tool is the tensiometer. A tensiometer measures soil moisture tension, which helps determine how hard plant roots must work to extract water from the soil. Another common practice is performing soil analysis. A soil analysis evaluates soil texture, nutrient levels, and sometimes soil salinity. Salinity refers to the concentration of dissolved salts in soil or irrigation water. High salinity can damage roots and reduce water uptake. Salinity problems often occur when irrigation water contains salts or when recycled water is used. Recycled water and greywater systems are becoming more common in water-limited regions. Greywater, sometimes written as greywater, is wastewater from sinks, showers, and washing machines that is reused for irrigation. Although recycled water can conserve resources, it sometimes contains salts that gradually increase soil salinity. Excess salt accumulation can create saline soils. Saline soils interfere with water uptake because salt draws water away from plant roots. Another related condition is sodic soils. Sodic soils contain high concentrations of sodium that damage soil structure. When both high salt and high sodium levels occur together, soils are classified as saline sodic soils. These soil conditions often require specialized management strategies to restore soil structure and reduce salt accumulation. Arborists can detect these problems through soil salinity testing as part of a comprehensive soil analysis. Another diagnostic method involves physically examining soil conditions. A soil auger allows arborists to remove vertical cores of soil for inspection. Using a soil auger, an arborist can evaluate soil texture, compaction layers, root distribution, and moisture conditions. This can reveal problems like hardpan layers, poor infiltration, or excessive saturation. Now let's return to irrigation management. Trees require irrigation based on a site's water budget. A water budget accounts for all water inputs and outputs at a site. Inputs include rainfall, irrigation, surface water, and groundwater contributions. Outputs include evapotranspiration, runoff, and deep percolation losses. By understanding the water budget, arborists can determine the minimum irrigation needed to support healthy plant growth without wasting water. Minimum irrigation strategies are especially important in regions facing water restrictions. Some irrigation products attempt to improve water retention in soil. Hydrogels, for example, are polymers that absorb and hold water in the soil. While they can temporarily increase water retention, research shows their long-term benefits are often limited. Mulch, however, is one of the most effective tools arborists can use to conserve soil moisture. A layer of organic mulch reduces evaporation, improves infiltration, moderates soil temperature, and gradually increases soil organic matter. Mulch also reduces erosion, which occurs when soil particles are carried away by water or wind. Erosion can remove valuable topsoil and reduce soil water holding capacity over time. Concept reinforcement. Let's pause and connect the major ideas from this chapter. Trees rely on turgor pressure to maintain healthy cells, and that pressure depends on adequate water availability. Soil moisture exists within a range between saturation point and permanent wilting point, and the portion accessible to plants is called available water. Water movement in landscapes depends on hydrology, infiltration, and percolation, while impervious surfaces and hardpan layers can disrupt these processes. Arborists manage water through irrigation systems such as drip irrigation and through landscape design strategies like Hydrozoning and Xeriscape. Diagnostic tools including tensiometers, soil augers, and soil analysis help arborists evaluate soil moisture, salinity, and root conditions. And finally, understanding concepts like evapotranspiration, water budgets, and drought response helps arborists make informed irrigation decisions. Exam Insight Moment. This is an area where the BCMA exam often tests conceptual understanding. You may be asked to distinguish between soil conditions such as saline soils, sodic soils, and saline sodic soils. You might also see questions involving available water, permanent wilting point, or evapotranspiration calculations. Understanding how these processes interact in real landscapes will make those questions much easier. Summary. Water management sits at the intersection of soil science, plant physiology, and landscape design. By understanding how water moves through soil, how trees use it, and how irrigation systems deliver it, arborists can prevent both drought stress and root suffocation. In the next chapters, we will continue building on these concepts by exploring how environmental stressors and site conditions influence overall tree health. Because in arboriculture, managing water is rarely just about irrigation. It is about understanding the entire ecosystem that supports the tree.
Thanks for listening to the Arborist-podcast. Let's keep building your arborist knowledge one domain at a time. If you found this useful, please like and subscribe.